Okay, so we're getting ready to put in some hood vents. Obviously, kind of got the hood vents somewhat laid out, in general where we want them. We've got our provided template here. Kind of gives you some basic measurements, but shows you the dotted line on the inside. So we'll get a pair of scissors. We'll cut that out. You can cut out the outside if you want. You don't have to, but if you really want to kind of see where the edge profile will sit with the template, you can cut out the outside as well. You can see I got some tape, so you'll need to get your own masking tape. Tape measure, drill. We recommend an 11/64, you can see it on here, 11/64 drill bit for drilling where we're going to do the studs. So the hood vents will come like this, flat. The louver part's flat, and then we've got the M4 studs that will be sticking out the bottom side. Over here, you can see this one is already hand formed up. So I had taken these that were just like that and flexed these into the orientation I wanted. It's better to underdo it and then do it more than go back and forth, back and forth. You can go up and back a little bit, but if you go back and forth a lot, you can cause the holding tabs to crack. But you do have a little flexibility, and they are extremely rigid once you get them flexed into position. So kind of here we have our setup. Eventually too, we're going to need some sort of cutting tool, air saw, die grinder, Dremels, to cut out the opening there for the hood. This is just folded in half, but you do have the cut template for two, so you can lay them in position. So just kind of showing you a little reference. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to take the tape and we're going to go ahead and tape in the general area where we're going to put the vent, get our templates cut out and ready to go. We're going to measure, position them, get them where we want them. Let's decide, like, okay, this is where I want it. And then we're going to use a pin and draw where we're going to want to cut and where we're going to want to drill. One thing to note is to also pay attention to the understructure of the hood, that you're not necessarily going to cut through part of the hood structure that you want to keep, or you're going to have some interference that is going to cause you a problem during the install. So that's just kind of getting us started. So next, like I said, we're going to start cutting out the paper templates and getting some tape down on our hood. Yeah, cover the whole thing.
I don't know all this Hollywood filmmaking stuff.
All right, so we got our tape laid out, and we've got our templates cut out, and we measured, measured off the edge here, measured off the edge, measured off the front. So we kind of visually got them where we wanted, and then we measured to get them the same. I mean, you might be doing something where you want a staggered look, but for this, we wanted them to be as symmetrical as we could. So now that they're here, you don't want to do any cutting on the outside, but on the inside, we're going to mark a line, pencil, ballpoint pen, something that we can, that'll be thin, but easy enough to see and to follow. And then you can see here, we have all our holes, and they all have crosshairs on them. So I can take my pencil and pencil or pen and kind of scribble a hole through to mark it, is one option. I'll probably use a center punch to actually line it up in the center and get little dimples on where I want to drill. It'll help the drill bit track. But if you don't have a center punch, then just making sure that you can mark it. And then I'm going to come through and we're going to cut the inside. I recommend always error, if you're going to err on the side of caution, you're slightly in, and then you can clean up the edge a little bit with a grinder. So, because if you make a mistake and you come way out, it should still be covered by the hood vent, but you don't want to interfere with any of your hole mounting. So we'll go ahead, we'll get this marked, and then we'll get started on doing some of the center punching. One thing I thought, as I mentioned earlier, is that when we're looking on the inside of the hood, you've got a lot of structure and different things in here. And some of that you could decide to leave and just open up the parts where it's the thinner sheet metal, and then the hood vent will just cover over some of that bracing. But another thing to note is, say for example, like I have one of the studs that maybe is going to come through in this brace, right? And that stud's not long enough to put a nut way in here, so what we'd end up wanting to do is coming through, if we're going to leave this brace, we would actually drill a hole that was big enough to get a nut driver or a socket in, so then that way you can still put the nut into that location. So I just wanted to point that out. And like I said, again, we're going to go ahead and get all our marks on here, and then we'll start cutting. Okay, so you can kind of see here I'm peeling back the template. I got my lines marked. So at the moment, can't find our multitude of spring-loaded center punches, so we'll go with the old school here. And we're going to line up on the center of that crosshair. And again, you can mark this with a pin, but getting it with the center punch there is going to be the preferred way for me, at least. Go ahead and give it a whack. And that'll give us our dimples in the hood, so we'll know where to drill. And it also helps carry the drill bit to the center point where you want to be. One thing, I will not drill all these holes all at once. I'll cut the inside, and then I'll start drilling one hole, and then I'll somewhat test fit the hood vent just to make sure that I've marked all my holes with the correct spacing, so that way all your hole-to-hole line up, so when you try to drop the hood vent in, it doesn't bind up on you. So if you need to slightly deviate, you can, but just make sure that all of your holes are in their correct location before you get carried away with just drilling all of them. So we're going to continue center punching these, and then we'll get going on starting to cut the inside. Whenever you're working on any project, you want to make sure that you're being safe. When we go to cut our hood vents out, we're going to make sure that we're wearing safety glasses and a face shield. But since we're cutting through, we don't want sparks to accidentally ignite anything. So there's various ways you could do this, but we have a fire blanket here, so go ahead and throw that on there. We're going to cover all that up, so that way we're going to keep sparks from getting on any of the oil in this engine bay or fuel lines, things like that. Also, another note, usually when you're doing any work on your car, you know, you need to make sure you're disconnecting the battery, things like that. So, but yeah, we're just getting this ready. We want to make sure that we're safe.
There, see, it's just all that gunk. All that crap's got to get cleaned out.
So I showed you the studs on the bottom sides with the nuts. So after the holes are drilled, you know, you'll slide this into those holes, and then you're basically just going to tighten up the nuts on the back side. Just like any hardware, you don't want to over tighten it. It has these flush pims on the top, so if you really crank down on it, you can cause this to dimple and fisheye. You just want to get that down and make it nice and snug. They're lock nuts, so you don't have to worry about going crazy with over tightening them. But like I was saying, this is the side we cut out all the understructure, and this is what we call like kind of our 50-50 vent. Whereas if you look at these, I've already taken these and bent that up into place, and you can see the way they're attached here is in the center of the little louver fin. And so what that does is it makes roughly 50% of the louver go down and 50% up. And since it goes down, it would hit the structure underneath. And if it's hitting the structure, obviously I can't bend that. So for this case, we would have to cut the structure out in order to rotate these louvers to get the angle we wanted. So again, that's the one we're calling like a 50-50 louver. And then this one I haven't bent up yet, but it's a 0-100. So 0 goes down, 100 goes up. And so I'll go ahead and start bending these up here in a minute, but I just kind of wanted to show that to you. You could use this and cut out the structure because it goes up. Or if you're buying a set of hood vents that are symmetrical left to right, or even if they're not, you could theoretically take these, flip them around and switch them from side to side, and actually have these go down so they're 100% down, 0 up. So a few different options that you can play with there. Just kind of wanted to make sure that you could see both. So I'm going to go ahead and start bending these guys up and kind of fine tune them to the angle that I want them to sit at. Okay, so here I am. I've started to pop a few of these up. I've said this before, but you know, I'll go ahead and grab this next one here. And so I just kind of get my fingers under there, and I got my thumbs back here on the lower part, and I just flex this up. And you can kind of see like that one is a little bit higher than the others. So I have the flexibility to kind of push that down a little bit if I want to, you know, kind of come back, you know, but the main thing is you don't want to rotate this all the way up, all the way back, all the way up, because then you'll weaken the tabs and cause them to crack eventually. So you do have some flexibility with it, you know, so you can fine tune them and adjust them. You just don't want to go over the limit. So you can see here, pretty quick to do, and then I usually like to get them pretty close, then I'll come back, and if I need to adjust them up or down ever so slightly, then that's what I'll do. You know, once they're in position, they're pretty rigid, and so once they're there, they'll stay there. So I just pop those up real quick. If I want to fine tune them and adjust them a little bit, I still have the option to do that. And so look at it here from the top. And again, this is the one that I'm calling like the 0-100. So that way none of this louver actually goes down under the surface of the hood. So that way, as you can kind of see in here, I have this hood structure that's still in place if I wanted to leave it there. Swing back over here to the other side, and you can kind of see how these pivot in the middle, 50-50, so half goes up, half goes down. We did cut out that structure. We didn't find any issues with this particular hood, so you just want to kind of play with what you got, do a little research on your own and make sure that you're not going to be cutting something out that's going to cause you problems. But in our case with this, we didn't have any weird deflections or warping or movement in the hood, so we were pretty happy with the way this one turned out. These, as you can see here, are raw aluminum. We also offer them in black powder coat. Things that are nice about raw is that if you want to do body color or paint them or powder coat them a different color, you can get them just the way you see them here. But if you want them already black, we do provide them with that black powder coat. If you're planning on leaving the hood structure, like I said, you know, underneath where you're going to put the vent, you're going to want to go with the 0-100. If you're going to want to cut that out, you can still go with the 0-100, or now you have the option for the 50-50. Not all hood vents have the option for both, so if you're looking through them and you for sure want to have the structure left, make sure that that particular hood vent has the 0-100 option. If you have any questions, please email sales@skillard.com. These are available from skillard.com. And we're going to be working on more and more options. So if you have a particular size, feel free to email us, and we'll see if that's something we can accommodate in a future production run.